Powwow. A small team. So small teams doesn't necessarily mean that you're a small startup company. It could be also equivalent to a small business unit in a larger corporation. So we're looking at it just in general as a small team. So again, we're using the same framework. We're looking at, you just started out. Next thing would be started, but there's no growth. And then there's getting growth, but not enough. Okay, so we'll start in the very first small part here where we just started out. We got a small team. We want to use the growth thinking, and the first part we start with is mindset, right? I mean, do we have the right people sitting at the table? That's super important. We need to all gel together somehow, and so we need to have some kind of a similar mindset. Doesn't matter. It doesn't mean we need to all think the same. We can think completely differently because multiple and very different perspectives are a very good thing, but we need to have something in our mindset that gels us together, right? So if you and I have completely different opinions, but we can come to an agreement that gives us a fantastic output, then that is a brilliant mindset. But if we continuously clash and we can't get along, then growth thinking is not going to help you out because you're not able to come to any consensus or conclusion on how to actually grow, right? So you want to be very careful with that. The next part is culture. So building a culture of failure is good and learning is gold and growth is king. This is a term that I use a lot in my training. It's funny because we all talk about how we should be okay to fail, right? But most cultures will penalize failure, whether it be your culture of reference in ethnicity or community, all the way up to the culture in your organization. Ultimately, as a small group of people, while using growth thinking, we want to set out to build a culture that failure is good. Okay, failure is good, learning is gold, and growth is king. Remember that pattern. That is the type of culture that you want to be cultivating. If you don't have that type of culture in your small group, that doesn't mean you're in trouble. What it means is you need to do some work around cultivating that kind of culture. And usually that's most likely the case rather than you having a culture already like that when you get together as a small team. Next is process. Okay, so create a simple yet effective process that gets everybody aligned. Okay, so it's not just about having a process, it's about being sure that everybody understands what that process is and how they work together. Now, the brilliant part of growth thinking is the process is already set out for you, right? It's a matter of ensuring that everyone is aligned, everyone has taken this course, everyone understands how it works. It's okay to make a few mistakes on your first few growth hacks. Very okay, as long as we all understand the process and we're aligned. The beautiful part of growth thinking is we've taken care of the process. Where you need to jump in is make sure that people around you are aligned with that particular process. Now we're going to move to you've started out, but you're still not getting growth. And remember, when we frame it like this doesn't mean that you've just started now. You've started for a while and you're not getting growth. Now, this is relative to everybody because that time frame could be a month for some people. For some people, it could be a year. It could be more than a year for some people. It's relative. There's no benchmark to it. So anyways, let's get started here. So the first thing is gaps. Okay, so we want to find what doesn't work quickly, but absorb everyone's perspective deeply. Okay, so this is super, super important, right? For a long time, you may be thinking something is working, but it's not. And so you need to quickly come to a reality and find what those gaps are. But you need to absorb everyone's deep perspective. And the reason I say that is that you're going to uniquely find that yourself or someone on your team has a perspective that hasn't emerged, or a perspective that hasn't been taken seriously, or a perspective that has not even come to the table. And this is the time to do it, because some of those very unique perspectives that may sound completely from left field, like it just doesn't make sense at all, that's exactly what is needed in the creative process. And that's what growth thinking is about, right? We're looking for that left field, blue ocean or white space, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're looking for, because that's where growth is going to come from. It's going to come from that little tiny corner. It's going to come from unknown spots. That's where it's going to come from, and that's what you're looking for, okay? Next is alignment. Okay, so changes happen, okay? Get people aligned and with changes and then towards growth. So as we're moving along and we're creating these changes, so we've got these gaps, and so we're just going to have to build a norm that change is a constant, okay? One of the reasons that you may have started out and you're not growing but continue not to is because you're too consistent in the things that aren't working. And so to realign, you need to recognize that we need to become more consistent with change. We need to become more change oriented. Change needs to become a norm, because if we're not flexible, we're not going to be able to use growth thinking to actually grow. The process is designed to be flexible, it's designed to be creative, it's designed to be broad enough that we can account for many things. And so the benefit of this process, it keeps all of us aligned. But if we need to change the way we're thinking or doing things, then that's the best way for us to utilize the growth thinking process. Next is timing, okay? You may need more time to make it work, so don't stop, keep it going, and keep improving. So this is a very unique one, okay? There are some things that just take time, right? So it's equivalent to like you're cooking a new dish, and you've cooked something similar, or you've seen someone cook it before and it took them half the time, okay? Hypothetically. And here you are taking more time to prepare, more time to implement it, and it's just taking more time. Sometimes we quit too early. Sometimes we don't give it the time it needs. And so we need to understand timing, okay? Timing is crucial. Sometimes things don't work for a while until finally they do work, and they continue to work for a very long time. It's a matter of just jumping over that hurdle. So be acutely aware, check in, and create a consensus with your team to understand that very carefully. Is it a matter of timing? Are we off, or are we on, or are we in the wrong path? It could be a bit tricky, it's relative, but you need to figure it out. Next is you're getting some growth, but you're not getting enough. The first part is harnessing, okay? Do not ignore what is working. Focus on how to take it to the next level, okay? This is a blind spot. So a blind spot is like something that's working, but you're taking for granted because it's just not getting you enough growth. Maybe you haven't put enough effort into it. Maybe there's an adjustment required. Maybe there's a timing issue like what we talked about in the previous one. You need to be able to step back, look at it, and harness it very well. Outreach. Get outside help quickly from the right type of people. If you're a small team, one of the biggest problems you're going to have is that you may be limited to the expertise in your team, but it doesn't mean you're not limited from getting people from outside to get an opinion. I'm not talking about hiring a consultant, which could be a possibility. I'm talking about thinking outside your four walls, going to the boundaries and talking to people, having conversations, reading new things, looking at new videos, tapping into new blogs, reading new magazines, newspaper, whatever it is that it takes for you to widen that perspective and get that expertise. And don't forget that it's okay to ask for help. And it's probably a very wise idea to get help from people who are much more knowledgeable in some of the things that you're trying to tackle, even if they haven't tackled it exactly the same way that you're tackling it. You might be surprised. Flip it. Not working, stop it now, and then start over with the learnings. So there is a time where the timing we may see is not working out very well. We've tried the outreach, we're trying to harness, and things aren't working, right? It happens, just things are not working. Stop it immediately, step back, go back to your learnings, start over again. Find another way to do it, find a better way to do it, kill it. I mean, what I'm telling you is just literally kill it. Sometimes you just need it. But this all requires a really good judgment call. It's important to have consensus with your team. Get help from outside. Get other perspective on this. See how others see it.